Wow.
And it's really heavy, isn't it? You know,
St Edward's crown is nearly £5, so you've got that on your head.
OK, that's like wearing a sort of low birth weight newborn baby on your head.
And probably as fragile and precarious as well.
That is actually what my son weighed when he was born. Wow.
Yeah.
And we know from public records that they have spoken about how heavy these crowns are. They're not easy to navigate a crowd in, are they?
No, I mean, the late Queen here once famously said, you know, I have to bring my speech up to read it because if I put my head down, my neck would break.
What's in terms of historic pieces that sit within the crown? Talk me through. I mean, this big stone at the front here looks like a love heart from a distance, but isn't. What is it, and what's its significance?
So that is known as Black Prince's ruby, and it's not actually a ruby; it's a spinel.
What's a spinel?
So it's a mineral-based stone. So it doesn't hold the value that a ruby would, but it's probably prized for its enormous size, and we think it dates to the 13th century.
13th?
Yeah, so it's more highly prized for its historical significance, really, because, as the name suggests, it was once owned by the Black Prince, the son of Edward III, so it's got centuries and centuries of history.
How has this survived when everything else got melted down after that sort of 11 years where we had absolutely no royal family, thanks to Oliver Cromwell?
Well, all of the precious stones were removed from these fabulous pieces of jewellery, and then the gold was melted down, and Parliament did try to sell off some of the stones, and they were successful in some respects, but other pieces, like that one,
have lived on.
Yeah, yeah.
What would that be worth now? Do we know, Ellery?
Oh my gosh, priceless. In terms of its historic value,
even though it's not a proper ruby,
it would be irreplaceable because it's such a link to that pre-Reformation monarchy. So we know that ruby, well, spinel, but it features in the Ditchley portrait of Elizabeth I, for example. So we have this continuation of it. It's you know, it's a living, well, not a living, but it's a surviving souvenir of you know, centuries. So.
And then there also are reputedly a couple of Tudor gems in there as well, because it's said that the drop pearls in there, some of the drop pearls came from the collection of Elizabeth I. So
from Tudor times?
Yeah, from Tudor times.
Wow, in this crown that we use today?
Yeah, yeah.
Blimey.
Yeah, so remnants of our Tudor past.
Those 3 pearls there, we believe, live on the imperial crown?
Possibly not those 3, but certainly 3 that had been owned by Elizabeth.
We know she had thousands of pearls because they were a personal symbol of hers, because they denoted purity and chastity. So she made them, exactly, she made them her personal symbol. So we know she had thousands, and they were given as gifts, and foreign princes and ambassadors sent pearls to her. So she had thousands of pearls in her inventory.
Wow, and the inventories is what we kind of work from, and what you work from as historians, to bring all of this to life, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we're really, really lucky because we have these inventories, and they're basically just allowing us to take a peek into the collections of these queens and what they had, and just how fabulous and magnificent it was.
Which takes me nicely to the consort necklace, because within the Crown's collection, I mean, this litters our history books, the consort's necklace. Tell us about the origins of this piece and its significance and relevance, Nicola.
I mean, it really was a showpiece. As you can see, it's absolutely beautiful. It is made up of some of the most important and costly gemstones in the Queen's collection. Yeah, so you can see, so that part is actually called an ouche, which is the most amazing word.
What's an ouche?
So it basically means a jewelled pendant or a jewelled brooch or a clasp.
This where my thumb is an ouche?
Yeah, that's an ouche. Yeah, so that's a really fabulous ouche, and that would have been worn by Henry's wives, and it's them really showing off. It was really, really valuable.
So an ouche is just basically a massive rock?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
And the same necklace was passed to each and every wife?
For the most part. It's possible that Catherine of Aragon may have owned that as well. We know that certainly it was owned by the other 5 of Henry's wives, but it seems likely they probably all did.
Do we know if they were wearing this you know?
No, not at that time. It would have been passed on to the next one by that point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we see Jane Seymour wearing this particular necklace in her beautiful portrait by Hans Holbein, and that is, again, that's really her saying, look at me, I'm the queen. Yeah, you can see her wearing it here,
Yeah.
exactly.
And Hans, who painted this, was also a designer of the royal jewels, wasn't he? He created a lot of the pieces that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Busy guy.
Very, very busy guy, yeah. Had a lot of commissions from Henry VIII and his wives. Yeah, there we go. That's one of his designs for an initial jewel. And we know that he was very, very busy designing lots of these pieces.
Blimey. And this is on display at the British Museum.
Yes.
As are so many of these pieces that we're walking through today. And
Yeah.
I'd just like to point out, this is a replica. This is not the real deal that I'm just, you know, wildly thumbing away at. How much would something like this have cost back then, and what would it be worth now?
I mean, the cost would have been astronomical. The sorts of jewels one look at this necklace would have told the viewer that they were looking at royalty or the very upper echelons of society.
Extreme wealth. Yeah.
Because it's the equivalent of a supercar. It sort of sets you apart from everybody else. But also, it also interestingly says that it's also a state asset. So Nicola was saying that actually the jewels were passed on from queen to queen. They were taken away when the queens fell. So Catherine Howard, for example, when she was arrested for adultery. The first thing that happened was her clothing, her queenly clothing and her queenly jewels were taken away.